Both of them, we felt that a lot of advocacy has happened between the government and also at the community level. We had some engagements, deep engagement with traditional and religious leaders, as well as others. But we wanted to reach common man on the street, the average Nigerian person, and one key area for reaching, people, the populace, is through social media. So the idea with her campaign was developed as a social media campaign to say no to gender-based violence.
Hello, we're here again, and I go straight on to say welcome, and I have my two guests who are with me in the house, and it's getting more interesting by the week. We are trying to ensure that hashtag I did with her becomes a viral one. How come every other thing becomes viral, but this one that is looking at ensuring that the key people in our society, women, especially the young girls, are protected from what seems to be like a virus of some sort? Because now girls and women are not even safe, even when looking for a job. It's crazy what's happening. It's like what's happening to the world. I'm very happy that you are tuned in now and watching this, because we've heard all kinds of horrible tales. But one area we want to focus on today is, in the case that there is some form of abuse or violence, especially with rape, what do you do? Oftentimes, it's finding who to call or what to do that is an issue, beyond the fact that stigmatization makes people scared. So I have two people in the house who have developed what I call a fantastic way, using technology to help people who have been abused. One of them is a survivor herself as a female, and the other is a young man who has three older sisters and a mother that it says were the instigators or the inspirers of what he does today. I'll let them come in one after the other. I'll start with Mr. Dirug. Dirug, hi, it's nice to have you here. How are you this evening, Dirug?
Hi, I'm doing fine. Thank
Dirug
you.
Samuel is the CEO of Big Family 360 Foundation. Thank you for joining us. And
Thank
my other guest, sorry, Dirug, just say welcome and go ahead so I can introduce the other person.
Okay, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dirug is calling in from Adamawa, northeastern Nigeria. And my other guest is a young woman that has become more or less like a friend and a daughter. And I call her an activist in the area of gender-based violence, but that's not what she studied in school. It's my pleasure to introduce Oluwaseun Osowobi. Isn't it interesting that what she studied in school,
it is.
And before I go into my, let me even start with you, because I mean, the thing is, what you're doing now, it was in the course of doing something as related to your work, which is your calling. You were called to serve in a particular part of Nigeria. And so after graduation, you went to serve there. But by the time you left there a different person. Tell me about that.
It's a story I don't like to tell because it sort of reminds me of things I try to forget and move past from. But yeah, I did serve in Rivers State, and I was doing lots of work around researching violence against women and girls in Rivers State, or South in general. And what I found with my research was mind-blowing. Then coupled with my own personal experience, I realized that there was a gap in terms of knowledge around what constitutes violence against women and girls. There was a gap as well in terms of service provision. And that's what spurred me to, do my master's and focus on gender. So yeah, that's like the brief of the trajectory. Can you hear me? Your mic is on mute, Antadiswa.
Thank you for bringing that to my notice. I was trying to sort out a few issues around here and turned my mic onto mute. But I'm just going to go straight on to Dirug. What I was asking Dirug is that he's calling from the northeastern part of Nigeria. I want to get a sense of how the issue of abuse, gender-based violence is in that part? Because some of the statistics that we have quoted is that in the past 1 year, especially with the pandemic, it has been on the rise. Is that the same case in the northeastern part of Nigeria?
Yeah, it's the same case, and thank you for having me. Aside from the pandemic, the northeastern part of Nigeria has been having the experiencing the Boko Haram crisis. So when the pandemic came, it's kind of affected the entire thing, and then the prevalence of gender-based violence was on the increase. So in terms of that, I think within the pandemic, a couple of cases, I mean, high number of cases were recorded, and it's so sad, especially where I'm calling from, that is Adamawa State. I think over 300 cases have been recorded in Adamawa State, but so sad that none of the perpetrators were brought to book. So you see, with such existing problem on ground, and then the pandemic came on board, it was like kind of some sort of free license for perpetrators that yes, this would happen and nothing will happen. I can do this, and then I can go free. So it's been so on the high rise, aside from the Boko Haram crisis, and then the pandemic came on board. So everything was just we couldn't like kind of handle the cases at some point, but we did our best. Whatever that we could, we did, provided the support that the survivors can access. But I think it's a global issue, and it's been like that equally in the Northeast. Yeah.
I would like Shehu to comment on the fact that because Shehu has been in this field for a little longer than you have, than Dirug has, and therefore Shehu will probably be able to say, I want you to gauge for me, within the past decade, how has the issue of violence against women become either front burner, and what's stopping it from being as hot as it should be?
That's an interesting question. The issue of rape came to the front burner about 7 to 8 years ago. And as you know, prior to that, people were really talking about sexual violence. And the reason, we were able to get rape to the front burner was through the power of storytelling. So there were a couple of, people who were doing separate things or individual things at the time. But that was when, Stand to End Rape Initiative sort of started the online movement around sexual violence in Nigeria. And so we were creating a lot of awareness, getting survivors to tell their stories. We were writing blog posts. We were doing so much, work online and even offline, going to communities, talking to community leaders, going on radio, going on TV, talking about this issue so people can get comfortable with hearing it on a daily basis on the radio. And there came, policy advocacy, because people now see that, okay, this issue is, existing. And let me mention, there was actually a policy being worked on at the time, which is the VAP Act, but it was more violence against women before it became the VAP Act.
To define what VAP is, violence against
persons prohibition Act of 2015.
That's VAPP.
VAPP Act, yeah. But prior to that, it was violence against women. But when awareness raising, campaigns were being run on social media, more people were getting aware about the issue of rape. And then we got to hear about the VAP Act, which, to be honest, I wasn't even aware of until I got involved in the NGO space in 2014. That was when I got to know about the bill. So anyway, because the issue was on the front burner, it sort of brought more awareness to the bill before the National Assembly. And, that's how we've been able to get rape to the front burner even till date. Consistent awareness raising, consistent policy review, advocacy with, political stakeholders, non-state actors as well. So yeah, that's how we got here.
So if we've got to the front burner, right, and I would like Dirug to come in on this, why you still respond when it's spoken. If it's gotten to the front burner, then why is it still such a big issue that it's like, now we've changed from using the word victim and using the word survivors? Is it that we haven't been doing the right thing And I want this to be a segue into the issue of maybe technology can change that. Because if not sensational, people don't even want to hear. If you don't want to say, oh, I was raped yesterday, and this is a given details, it's like, people don't want to talk about it. So I want Dirug to please come in on this and see if we have, the violence against persons has been on. In fact, violence against women, CEDAW was where it came from. Convention Against the Violence Against Women, more than 15 years, 20 years since Beijing, and we're still talking about it now. Is there something we have missed out, Dirug, from a male perspective first, before I hear from a female perspective?
Yeah, I think a couple of things. I would start saying that civilization started long ago, and then it happened that um, in terms of inclusion, whether in governance or leadership or what have you, has been missed out. So like with the civilization and what have you, we find out that our cultures has actually been practicing this for quite a while. Yes, even if it happens, yes, the wife has been cultured in such a way that he doesn't have to talk about it. And then it became a shameful thing for a woman to come out and say that I've been raped because only few people can believe her. And aside from that, I think in Adamawa here we had a community that women so much believe that if their husbands beat them, yeah, they truly love them. If they don't beat them, yeah, they don't really love them. So one thing I would say is that it's been part of our culture for quite a while. So now we are trying to see how we can make people understand that if this happens to you, this is against your person as a human being because you're not doing it out of your own will, but someone is forcing himself on you, then you shouldn't tolerate that. So basically it's something that has been quite been happening for long. So now we are trying to change the narrative. So it's a huge work. So I think that's where the first gap is. And then secondly, I think in terms of policy, yes, our policy were not so sensitive about things like this. So it became that so evidence that even if this happened and then the woman decided to seek for support or justice, yes, there is no policy to provide her that support or law to provide her that support. So it's been difficult. I think I was reading a paper a few months ago by World Bank. They said that it will like take us over 2 centuries, I think, yeah, to achieve gender equality globally. So because it's been something that has been existing, so now we are trying to change the narrative. So
Okay.
yeah, I would say that first, it's part of our culture. That's
Okay.
where the gap is, and then it has affected almost modern
All
age. And I,
aspects of our life. Yes. What I hear Dirk saying, Shane, I'm sure you heard him too, is that our culture is one of the main issues, one of the problem, and then policy. But even then, we have policies, and he also made
Yeah.
allusions to gender inequality. Could that be it? Really, gender inequality? Because you find that in cases where some of these things are reported, it's even the women that will first say, what were you doing? What were you wearing? Are you sure? Is it true? So I want Seun to come in here and say how, you know why I'm asking you to come in. You say something like hashtag I deal with her, which basically means I am in support of everything female. I want to protect every female I know, every female I meet. And so if I hear or see of a case of rape, I will make sure I find and seek justice for her. But that can only
Right.
happen if there's a buy-in by everybody. How do you get that kind of thing viral when everybody only wants to watch certain kinds of things? I'm just wondering.
I mean, we also need to understand the culture of purity, right? Women are expected to, be virgins when they want to get married. Women are not expected to have sex and all of those things. And so when a woman experiences violence, the first thing to ask is, why did you put yourself in that position? What were you wearing? Why were you there? That's what we are, used to. So now we're doing a lot of awareness raising, social and behavioral change communication to change people's knowledge to improve on their attitudes and change their practices. That's why advocacy is very important. But yes, it will take having everyone on board. Like you rightly mentioned, everybody has to be an active bystander. So when you see something, you say something, you intervene. But you also need to understand that there are people who are patriarchal princesses, which means they've been brought up to see things in a certain way and to uphold, the notion that women are, beneath, men are above women. And so when violence happens, is because the person beneath must have offended the person above, or the person beneath did not dress properly, or was at the wrong place at the wrong time, things like that. So you have those who uphold that value, because without that, understanding, their humanity diminishes, because their humanity is tied to their purity. Something we don't do for men. Yeah, a woman's value is in her purity, right? That's why you see during marriage ceremonies, they're like asking the woman, "Are you a virgin?" If she's a virgin, she's a good wife. If she's not a virgin, she's a sports commodity. It's just those very wrong narratives and the ways we view women that also contributes to women, sort of imbibing those wrong narratives about themselves and projecting it on other people. And it would take a lot of advocacy and awareness raising to get people to change their perspective. And we're on that road.
I mean, Adiro, I'm sure, do you agree with that? So behavioral change is what we're talking about. And one of the key behavioral changes is the perception of purity. Purity, is it the same brush that we tap purity for men? If we said, for example, purity was important to men as well, would that change it though, do you think? I'm just wondering.
Yeah, I have. I want to say that this is kind of a bit. It's going to be like kind of a bit difficult, if I am to be honest. When you're used to power, and then one day your power is being challenged, you'll find a way of fighting back just to retain it. So in that regard, I would say, yeah, it will be super great, but I would say it will be better if we focus on kind of getting men to know by simply conscientizing them that, yeah, even if she is a virgin or not, that doesn't like qualify her to be a good wife or not. Yeah, one of the
Do you
things
think
that
that would work though? I'm just wondering, do you think that would work? Would you, for example, maybe you're in the space, so maybe you're not a good example. If you told a fellow now that the fact that your wife to be is not a virgin is not an issue, doesn't mean that she's a soiled commodity. You think that would help them to appreciate women more?
Yeah, I think basically that's where I'm arriving at, because all this boils down to kind of creating awareness and conscientizing people about this. I work in this space, and sometimes I have the opportunity to talk to men. So one of the things that I've realized so far is that a couple of men had no idea what this is. They feel doing this to a woman, like for example, forcing yourself on a woman is nothing. You can do that besides she is a woman. So but by them simply getting informed, some of them like kind of say, this is true, I don't have to force myself on a woman or on someone. So I feel the best concept here is to kind of focus on a positive masculinity as well, because it may solve the problem halfway, I feel, while we try to implement laws and policies. Because aside from this, I feel even if we advocate for positive masculinity, we conscientize men, we sensitize them that, yeah, we need to treat a woman rightly. We don't have to really focus on them. Like, if she is good, she is good. Her virginity should not determine her own personality. I feel it will help, especially now with the the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act. I think it will, if fully implemented, it will really help in I mean in a great way, because the challenge is that even if you conscientize these men, you can conscientize men that this is what you do, this is what you do, this is how you treat women. You find out that the challenge, they will say that someone did this somewhere and he's been walking around. So me, myself, I have the liberty to do it, and then I'll walk around and nothing will happen. So I feel now that the VAP Act is coming on board, I know certainly if fully implemented, it will go halfway, while we, the actors on ground, what would be left to us is to kind of sensitize and conscientize men that we can be men and be real men at the same time. We
So
don't have.
I hear you, Dirug. You're advocating for positive masculinity. That's what you're advocating for. But Sheon, that's a long journey, you think? It's a long-term journey. And how can technology make it work? Because, for example, one of the things that I stand to enrage, one of the things that I first knew about what you were doing was the fact that you realize that it's good to make it possible for people to know where is the first place to go. And so that was one route that you took.
To be honest, just to contextualize the conversation, sorry, I'm not saying, the culture of purity, to get men also to imbibe the culture of purity will change things. I'm only saying the reason you have, women as well targeting survivors or disbelieving them is because the culture of purity is the power that they have, right? So that's what they believe. That's the trust system that they have. So anyone who goes against that, they don't see the violence that happens. They see more of the person putting themselves in that space where violence happened. But in terms of technology, I think technology can do two things. It can be a way to prevent these issues from happening, and also a way to provide response. So I want to use the case of God rest her soul, Ini, as an example. She used technology to find a job. Somebody,
Ini now is one of the recent cases that we had in Akwa Ibom. And
yes.
So I want to put it in context for those who don't know.
Yeah. She used technology to try to get a job. She was linked, to come to Akwa Ibom, which she did. But since that case has happened, there have been numerous people who have also tweeted about, looking for jobs. And because of the awareness that case brought, people are using technology to educate people, where to go to, which are the fake jobs right now, that can make you susceptible to being kidnapped, violated, or, murdered. So now technology is being used as a preventive measure, because the more people get awareness about, job interviews not to attend, the more we can save lives. But technology also can help to improve response, which is what we started doing in 2014, is creating a safe space where people can access what to do immediately a rape case happens or domestic violence case happens, what steps to take and how we as an organization or government as applicable can support them. So I think technology can, play both roles. And it's just finding the balance between the two. Tech as a safeguard and then tech as safe space. And that's what we've been doing. Yeah.
Okay, I think it's a good time to now ask that we play some slides of your work, both of my guests. I'd like to have slides of what they do, because Sheon and I stand, well, I call you Sheon, I call you Ayodeji. I mean, I get confused on my phone sometimes too. And the work that she's done to ensure that the app is, some kind of technology is available to help. So if we can quickly play those slides, I'd like to have them on. And Dirug, such a young man who's already doing great things.
I pledge to always talk to my parents and other trusted adults about anything that makes me feel sad, angry, afraid, or worried. I pledge to say no if someone asks to see or touch my private parts. I pledge to respect and care for other children as I like to be respected and cared for. I pledge to report, speak out, and get help from my parents or a trusted adult when anyone hurts me. So help me God.
Yes, yes, yes. I mean, I just played all those things at the same time. First of all, to see the work that Sheung is doing, advocacy and out there on the streets for the past since 2014 or 2013. And then on the other side, seeing what Dirug has done beyond, because he's a computer science, he has a diploma in computer science, and now he's doing info technology in the university. For someone so young and already thinking about what you can do to use technology to make it easy for people, I played that. And at the same time, I played our pledge, which we play every week, for each child to become aware about the need to be more vocal about things that happen to them. So, Dirug, as you come back on, I want you to tell me about the SMART RR. I want to assume that RR is rapid response. I don't know what it is, and how this can help to check violence against young girls and women. Dirug?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, smart RR. What the RR means is reporting and referral. So the smart RR, that is smart reporting and referral. It's mobile. It's a mobile application that allows people to report gender-based violence cases from their smartphones, thereby helping survivors to access services from their immediate community. Basically, the application is designed in such a way that it identifies who is doing what and where, so that when survivors are reporting cases, victims are reporting cases, they can easily find a trained social worker in their community that can provide them with that very particular assistance they need. So I started working on this mobile application, I think earlier 2019. So I built the application live I think ending 2019, and it came live early 2020. So when the pandemic came and the cases were rising here and there, we have to launch the application and start creating awareness in a little way that we can, so that people can leverage on that and report cases. And to our greatest surprise, it's been so helpful beyond what we thought the application can. So the application is pretty basic and simple. If anyone can use WhatsApp, Facebook, any social media platform out there, the person can use the application, because we made it easy. We realized that survivors need help, but the major challenge is knowing who to help them from their immediate community, knowing that that person will not talk about their case or their condition with any other person, because they are well trained. So we thought creating that interface whereby we identify these service providers from each community to register, so that once these incidences happen, survivors can find confidence to report, and then they will come to their aid. Um, so basically, that is.
I like that statement that you made. Survivors can have confidence to report, and that's the area I would like Sheung to come in and speak to. Haven't been a survivor herself, although I had a question from Abraham before Sheung comes in. Abraham had asked that what is being done for the grassroots. What are they doing at the grassroots, age-wise? Is there any program targeting children at primary schools and all? An app like this, can primary school children use it, and can it be used in the villages, for example?
Yeah, yes, of course.
It can be.
Yeah, we designed the app in such a way that it can accommodate the least internet network, let's say 2G. It can work with 2G, 3G, 4G. And then now we are trying to like mobilize resources to access USSD code or short codes for people that doesn't have access to smartphones so that they can report these cases. But
So
basically,
clearly, it's targeted at every single person, and
yeah,
it's something that it's a not-for-profit initiative.
yes, of course.
Okay, so Sheon, please, you know why I said you should come in? Having been a survivor yourself, do you think an app like this could have helped you in your situation? And how easily, when you are in a position where you are, you have been attacked, are you going to remember to press something on your phone? Your phone could be taken from you too.
So these are the different conversations that I had. So in 2014, I'd reached out to someone in the tech space and I said I wanted to have an app. And then he asked me, what would be the use of the app? I said to report cases. And then he said, every phone has different, apps competing. So there's bank apps, there are, different kind of apps. What would make someone want to download an app, just to report a case? Are they hoping to get raped again? That they will have to keep the app on their phone? And, that question sort of, gave me a bit of a setback and made me go back to rethink what I really wanted to do. And so I didn't create an app. But I love those who have created it, because what it can do is it can help you get instant, how do I put this? It can help you document your case, for instance, because that's one thing that people really, don't have when we get to court: documentation, evidence. Such an app can help you document your case. It can help you speak to, either a lawyer right there at that instant, or a counselor or someone that can guide you to say, okay, this has happened, do this and do that. There is an app Stare currently partners with. It's called Kasala app. And what Kasala app does, for instance, is it's not just to report it.
How do you spell Kasala? Is it with a K?
Kasala is like, trouble, Kasala, Kasala app. And then when they approached us, I kind of asked, what is your strategy? And, what they, are doing is basically like an app where it's not just for rape, it's for all security issues. So if, I get kidnapped or I'm in trouble, there is like a family and friends kind of, not just family, no. It's like a family and friends kind of bot that they can easily identify your location, where you are. So like it sends them the code that they can easily tell where you are. So it's not just for rape, it's for like security in general. And I found that very interesting. So maybe that could have been useful during my time, but there's really no time to, say maybe or maybe not. But what's important is survivors of today have different platforms to get support from.
So I'm thinking, why I asked that question, and I mean, Dirug could also respond to that. I'm thinking, because you're in distress. You're certainly not going to be thinking about, oh, I need to call somebody. Your phone may not even be in your hand. So in that kind of situation, how can such technological advancements be taken advantage of? I would think, for example, as a layman, it's people being aware that it exists, first of all, that, oh, I can actually have this. Because I do know that once I was interviewing during the rape, the accusation of a lawyer in Unilag, the deputy vice chancellor and the chancellor spoke about they're trying to develop an app that they will give to all the female students, that at least if anything is happening, all they need to do is press a button and there's a panic. People will know something is happening, they will trace you. So yeah, I think it's just a function of having the one that is functional and having people to know that, yes, you can find help. I don't know.
So the Kasala app actually has that panic button, which is what is connected to the family and friends. So anyone, actually, you have like a hub of Kasala users. So which means if I'm a Kasala user and I'm in Okota and the person, press the panic button, it will prompt me in Okota with the location, right? So that I can either, send the police there, or I can get people from the Kasala app. We converge real quick and, go rescue that kind of a person. So there's that panic button.
Yeah. Because I mean, I'm thinking about now, my focus still remains the young girls and women. How do we get them to feel safe enough to begin to develop? I mean, and I would like Dirug to respond to this, because you've also developed something, and you're in a part of the world where we do know that culture is still very strong in terms of what women and girls get dished in life. So how do you convince people who are where young girls are still being sent to marry at age 15 and under 18, because technically, how do you convince them to use an app like yours?
Yeah, basically, one of the challenges with I realized based on my experience working with survivors is to actually get who to trust. So
Mm-hmm.
far, you can create a safe space for them. They can easily talk to you. So most of them, before they even say anything out, they would want the person to create a safe space for them. So and basically our application Smart RR is simply focusing around things like that. Just an example, one of the major impact stories that we had of a case, a girl here, student here in Adamawa State, that was actually raped by her neighbor during the pandemic. Um, when she was raped, actually, she could not even talk to anybody for within the period of 2 weeks. So, and in her mind, she was just thinking, like, what if the best option is actually, according to the story that she narrated, she was even considering suicide at a point, but then she then decided like to go online and check if there is a place she can get support. So when
Ah,
she typed a rape app, then she saw Smart RR came on board. And
mhm,
with that, she decided to report a case to a psychosocial support facilitator
mhm,
within Adamawa State, within her community. And then the person actually came and provided her with the support that she wanted.
mhm,
It was actually difficult for us to believe that until when the survivor actually came out and the service provider like came out behind doors, and then we had them interview, and it
mhm,
was amazing because one of the things is that for them to find a safe space, and the beauty of the thing is that when she realized that she can report her case and then
mhm,
Smart R can easily hide her
mhm,
identity.
mhm,
So
mhm,
even if I'm reporting to you, you will not even know that I'm the one reporting to you because
mhm,
you don't see my face.
mhm,
All the information that you can access is my location and my mobile
mhm,
phone number just
mhm,
to get in touch with me. So for us, we just came from that perspective, thinking to build that anonymous interface for survivors that cannot talk to anybody, then find confidence in someone that is within their community that can come and help them, provide them
mhm,
with necessary support without really knowing, without really exposing them out there.
mhm, mhm. So,
So
so what I hear you talk about, and even talking about Kasala or if it's a smart RR, these are post-event, post-occurrence management, right? I want us to move a little bit to the area of how do we even prevent it from happening in the first place? Are there things that we can do? This is a very great leap of progress because to be able to know that even if it does happen, you can manage it, right? Right. And this
yeah,
app help us to do that. But how do we prevent it? Before I do that, I would like us, because I want people to see in the case of rape in particular, or other forms of violence, there are some helplines. I'm going to ask that as we all speak now, we're going to keep scrolling the helplines as they go along, even as we discuss, yes, sexual helplines across Nigeria, so that in case the states that we have, we are hoping that many more states will create them. We want to believe they always work. But having heard what Dirug said in a short while ago, that somebody was able to get help by searching for how to get help and they found Smart RR, that's one way to go because help is one of the best things that can happen. I'm guessing based on all the stories I've heard. And I don't know if Oluwaseun will okay my guess because he's he who feels it that knows it, right? Knowing where to find help is great. Does that help healing in any way, Sheun?
That's a difficult question because it's a case by case for different survivors. But just quickly mention, Kasala app is not just a management; it's also a preventive app with the panic button, so it can actually get you safe before the violence happens. And we recently partnered with both to offer emergency rides to anyone who is in an unsafe space. So if you press the panic button on that app, for instance.
That's in Lagos.
Yes, in all the states where both apply. So Lagos, Abuja, Ibadan, Benin, yes, all the states where both works. So we can send you an emergency, ride to get you out of that environment. Just by the way, but in terms
hoping that the guy is going to be faster than the help you're getting.
What do you mean? The perpetrator?
Yeah, hoping the perpetrator is
we can only try, right? We can only try and then keep improving. But at least let us, try things that could work. And we can, improve on them as time goes by. But in terms of healing for survivors, I think one of the most important thing is that somebody believes them. I think throughout the 7 years I have worked in this space, one thing I have seen is survivors always feel safer when they are believed, when somebody, understands them, sees them, and is willing to provide support to them. Whether their case goes to court or not, that's a different kind of conversation. But the fact that there's someone who is there listening to them as a caseworker or as a lawyer or psychologist, whatever the person's role is, so far as someone is there for them, is very helpful. And then they can begin to access services. But the process to healing is like continued therapy, right? Either therapy, mental health therapy, or therapy in the courts of law. You getting justice, like seeing your perpetrator behind bars, So people find different ways to heal. And we just have to ensure that whatever process for healing that they have, every step of that way, there's somebody there guiding and supporting it.
I would like us to address what has become more or less like a big elephant in the room, where when you talk about rape and victims and survival of rape, one of the things that keeps coming out these days is, there could be people who call foul, cry foul. Is it true?
False allegations.
False allegations, right? How do we address that? And how is that affecting the ability of people to come out? Because we must admit there could be false accusations. Couldn't there be? Should we ask Dirug to please respond to that first, being the youngest person in the market, before Oluwaseun takes it?
Yeah,
because I know I say you should start first. You're the one that's in university. You're young. You're seeing, a lot of date rape happens, right? And you go out with a guy and you come back, everybody's gonna say it's a lie. Maybe you were misreading the guy. When the girl says no, she means yes. Those kind of things that we hear.
Yeah, basically, for me, as an aid worker and an actor as well, by training, let's cite an example. Someone knows definitely that she is lying, and then she decided to file a case against me that I'm kind of involved in one abuse or the other. By the global standards of teachings, whether the authority verified that that person is lying or not, the person should not be charged. You get, and that is because if, as far as it's any form of violence, if it is under GBV, gender-based violence, um, the person should be tolerated. The person should be given an ear. So
until proven otherwise.
yes. So basically, I would say whether it's the truth or lie, I don't think it would actually be some sort of lie, though there are some cases like that, but most of the time it's end around attempted sexual abuse because yes, there it's happening. I cannot, for me, I don't know whether the reason why I am biased is because I am in the field, but I feel it will never be a lie because definitely there are tendencies around it. Even if it did not happen, there is an attempt. So for me, I think that's my view around that. So until it's proven, I think it's good, yeah.
Okay, asking you, I think I should go on the street next week and find out from guys. How do you draw the line between what they perceive to be rape and a girl saying no? I think I allow Sheun to respond to this now. She probably would have a different perspective. What do you think?
So what's the question?
two-prong questions. One, the first thing is the case of false alarm or false accusations, right? And then how do you draw the line between that kind of thing and where a guy believes the typical thing you hear is that, oh well, she did, no doesn't, when a woman says no, it means
Try harder.
right, yeah.
Okay. So with regards to false allegation and that how that impacts our work, I think in my years of working in this field, I've gained a lot of experience and expertise on how to really assess stories. So we have like lawyers who practically ask questions, to get the detail and the facts about the case, because we don't want to go to court, blind, or we don't want to get somebody who is not a violator, get them to go through the process of the law and find out that they were not guilty. So we always have like checks and balances to check, our stories and our cases to ensure that everything tallies. But we must also recognize that there are people who have experienced rape like 10 years ago or 20 years ago. And sometimes the story may be distorted. It doesn't mean it's not true. It just means that the event of things, they've forgotten some part because they've tried to suppress that memory and move past it, So when they come forward, people are like, but there's a hole here, there's a hole there, there's a hole there. As a layman, it's easy for you to call that false accusation, but someone who works directly with survivors and has measures in place to really check what his true story is, we definitely know that those stories are not lies. But what we tend to do is basically encourage people to report cases that are legit. We will not fight a case that is false. That is not who we are. I remember a case that we got. We did proper investigation on that case. And then the survivor, with all the facts and the evidence, the survivor came out and said, she was sorry that, she just wanted to what's the word now? To get back at the guy because he wasn't going to give her the love that she was deserving of.
But was it true?
No, the case wasn't true. She was only trying to get back at him. So that's what I'm saying. Those who work in this field have ways of finding, the real stories. We don't publish stories that are not true. That's not our practice. But if you look at the data indicates that, we have very little cases of false accusation. In fact, I would say non-existent.
Yes, I just wanted, because Sylvester's question has been up. I just thought we should, I'll come back to that. Sylvester is saying, how do you deal with a cultist group that use their influence power to conduct such an act? So as you speak, I want you to say what you're saying, can finding justice might solve a problem like that.
Whether the person is a cultist, a politician, or whoever it is, the person is not above the law, right? And I think we need to recognize that. You can take the case of the commissioner of a commissioner in Kogi State, for instance, that violated the lady. The case was taken to court and things like that. So I know that cultists do have, power or influence in their school, but we also need to recognize that there's a place for the law, and it's left for the civil society organization or the government institution, if case is being reported to actually take action, right? We can't say because they hold a certain power, then it excuses their behavior, or we cannot take action against them. The first step is to report. You report and let civil society organizations or government institutions do their job, right? You have actors, you have celebrities who also rape. They have power, they have influence, but does it mean that we cannot go after them? No, we can, because we have the law backing us. So I hope that helps.
Of course it does. I'm just wondering if Dirug feels the same way, believing the fact that the critical mass, the critical case, the critical point in the issue of getting gender-based violence, at least reduce it and ending it, is in finding justice for perpetrators. Finding justice for survivors and getting perpetrators to be behind the bars, regardless of whether they are cultists, commissioners, politicians, whatever. What are your thoughts on that? Being a university student right now.
Yeah, I would just like to add on what Shewun just shared in terms of proving whether the case is true or not. For example, here in Adamawa State, we have actually a forensic lab and a sexual assault center, where when such a case is reported, Um, you just take the survivor to the center, and then the medical people will facilitate an examination, like just by simply checking whether there is a penetration or not, or there are cements around and all of that, especially if this survivor hasn't taken her bath or not, or there are wounds around and all of that, injuries. So these are ways that one can actually prove whether a case is true or not. And going back to your
That's if it's
question,
fresh. If it's not from maybe years ago and you just want to
yeah,
get the
yeah,
law, if
if
it's
it's
fresh.
not from 3 years
So
ago, yeah,
what that tells me though is that anybody who's watching this right now should know that these days you can find justice. And the most important thing that you do, first of all, correct me if I'm wrong, is don't have a bath.
Yeah.
yeah,
Find the nearest place that you can test. Give
yeah,
someone a call. Don't fight. Don't have a bath, because most of the cases that have been fought in the area of rape and the cases that have been fought and lost is this, there is no evidence.
Evidence.
So at least
Yeah, I absolutely agree. People need to preserve the evidence. So when it happens, I know how discomforting that can be actually not to shower because you just want to get all of that, dirt out of you. But it's important that when it happens, you go to a sexual assault referral center. You can even call a service provider. They will guide you on where to go, where to make reports, because you also have to make a formal report at the police station to establish a formal case.
I think Adek
Yeah.
is responding to that. Adek is saying exactly what you're saying. They don't want to pass through the reporting process of cases because they ask them the same thing over and over again.
Which is why you need to speak to a service provider who can facilitate knowledge sharing and information sharing with other parties. So for instance, when a survivor comes to Stand to End Rape Initiative and you need to get medical support in Lagos State, we send our referral documents to Mirabel Center. Mirabel Center doesn't need to ask you so many questions, except the ones that wasn't provided in the referral form. So that way we're sharing cases across board. Information across, we're not having to re-traumatize the survivor. Even when we go to the police station, we have a lawyer who accompanies the client there. They can speak on behalf of the client. And when it now comes to writing the case, so they give you like a report sheet where you have to write it, then the client can write those things in our own words, and that is documented. But so unfortunately, go ahead. Now let's say unfortunately when they get to the court, they will still have to go through cross examination, so they might have to share that information again. But amongst the service provider, we're improving our knowledge and data sharing processes.
So it can be painful. It can be painful. So I'd like us to speak to one final thing, and that final thing is, how do we check the abuse of women? Can you share 2 tips or even 3 very quickly, 1 minute each? Dirug, how do we check it? Now, we are talking about dealing with it when it happens, but how do we stop it as much as possible from happening? Dirug, you want to respond to that?
I think basically, for now, I think like preventing it. First, I would say let's establish and implement laws and policies. Secondly, let's keep sensitizing women, because I want to believe that rape has been happening all this while. Since the ancient, it's been happening, but it's now that women are getting sensitized. That is why they are coming out to speak. So for me, I want to believe that it's been happening. It's not just because the pandemic came, or like because of the Boko Haram crisis that we've been having in the north, but because people are getting sensitized on daily basis, and they've been informed on where to access help. So I would say let's keep sensitizing people and ensure that laws and policies are being implemented effectively. Yeah, thank
Okay,
you.
I think this question for Pamela is the one that Sheon can actually deal with. What advice would you give to women here that are trying to get, the question is get men involved in advocacy, and the only thing you hear is, haha, it's not all men.
Not all men, yeah. I mean, to be honest, what you can, do is find the few people who would say, I am part of you, right? Not every man doesn't want to be part of the advocacy. So find those first people, build their capacity. Let those boys engage the other men. right? It becomes easier when men speak to men and can get them on board. And that was a strategy I used when I started STAIR. I got, men on board as volunteers. And then when we go for community engagement, I speak, but the men also speak. That way it feels like men are speaking to men and bringing themselves on board. Of course, we have people who would say not all men, it's expected. But what we can continue to do is, improve the advocacy, the engagement, help them see things, differently. It's not fight. Although sometimes we need to be ruthless in our knowledge sharing so that they can really get it. But at the end of the day, you want to bring more parties on board. So you have to maybe sit with your comms people or your programs people. What are the ways these men listen? Who do they listen to? And then you can find better ways to engage them.
Be engaging men to see that it's important that we protect women.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the way to go. We need men. We need to actually target this information out to men, because I am sincerely tired about telling women where not to go and where to go at what time and not what time. No matter what women do, whether they are in their homes, they are in schools, they are in the workplace, they are harassed, they are raped, they are killed. So it's no longer about women, it's about men themselves. So we need to target this advocacy to men. And I agree with Samuel in terms of implementation of laws. We have so many instruments and policies in Nigeria. Our problem is implementation and proper mechanisms to facilitate that implementation. So we need to build the capacity of, the Nigerian police, for instance, although they've been building their capacity for years, but God will help us. We need to build their capacity in investigation. We need to build the capacity of the legal system to provide prompt justice. We can't be having cases in court for 4 years. Survivors don't have time for that. They want to move on. So let's, be more practical and, have up-to-date, processes for getting justice. And I think finally, all of us need to be active members. So whether it happens to my sister, my neighbor, my cousin, it doesn't matter. It is my responsibility to see something and say something. If the survivor then does not want to pursue the case, that's okay. But I have done what is, necessary. And as individuals in your circle, also educate people. So the boys, your sons, your brothers, like I speak to all of my brothers, they know everything in and out of gender equality. And they
practice it in real life. Your boyfriends and stuff like that?
I do it. I speak to everyone because, to be honest, I can't keep talking to women. I also need the men to change their ways, which is why a lot of community work, goes on and social media advocacy. So yeah, let's just keep educating each other. But importantly, let's have our legal system and our justice system, a bit better.
Before I go, Dirug, do you feel very lonely in the space being one of the few men talking about this? Do you feel like lonely, or you're advocating and bringing more men on board?
Yeah, to an extent, sometimes I feel lonely. But
or they feel you are odd. Do you get people tell you things like, oh, maybe he's gay?
I mean, being gay is not a bad thing, though.
One thing that I have a couple of men that have been part of me, like my team, and then I think most of the people that inspired me even to keep working in this space are men. So I don't really feel lonely because I have men, but my major concern is that I'm just in my space and I have people in my space. So I don't know whether the people outside the space feel we are odd, but I know that I am within a space, within a community of people that we think alike, and we feel everybody deserves every kindness out there. Everybody deserves to be heard. Everybody deserves whatever goodness that comes our way. So basically for me, I would say that I don't really feel lonely because, yeah, I have my people within my community. Yeah, we are good.
So as we leave, I want both of you to tell me, hashtag I deal with her, and in what way are you dealing with her? How do you want to deal with her? How do you want to support her specifically? So supporting every girl, child out there. Go, Dirug.
Yeah, Smart RR is out there, so it's for the support, and then Big Family, yes, is there basically to support women and girls and children at the same time. So, like I said, the reason why I developed Smart RR is just I feel it's just the best way to um, give a gift to my sisters and mother as well, because I feel whatever goodness that they deserve from me, every other girl out there deserve it. So even with meager resources, I think Smartara is doing well now because we've recorded a lot of successes from the application, success stories that we never thought of. So I think it's a gift to girls out there. So we deal with them. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So, Oluwaseun Ayodeji.
I think mine is simple. I dare we try to continue to deconstruct, narratives that promote violence against women and girls. I dare we try to achieve her dreams without violence, and I dare we try to get support at any time should she experience any form of violence.
Thank you very much, Seun, and thank you very much, Dirug. And as we go, I want us to just listen to the pledge from parents, because the most important people in the life of young girls are their parents. They need to deal with her clearly. So I'm going to sign off as I take the parents' pledge, hoping the parents are seeing it, and let's spread the word. Thank you very much.
I pledge to learn about types, signs, and prevention of violence against children. I pledge to speak out and report all cases of violence against children to the appropriate authorities. I pledge to step in and help any child experiencing violence. I pledge to consciously create an environment free from violence for my child. I pledge to communicate effectively and spend quality time with my children and build a trustworthy relationship with them. So, help me God.